Today I would like to talk to you about still life and how to paint a still life with pastels. There are difficulties in painting a still life, and let's look at them one by one and tackle them all together. Here are my sponges. I washed them. I know they still look dirty, but don't worry, they're really clean. They will not stain or mix with other paint when I paint them. You don't have to have all of them, but these little ones are a must, especially if you are using pen pastels. This tool right here is gonna be really handy when I'm doing the little details of the background. This is my reference photo, and I think the most challenging part will be the glass, and I'm using Carbotello Stabilo pencils today. I always start creating the base with pen pastels. This makes my job much easier when I work details with my pencils. The first difficulty that I want to talk to you about are the colors. Colors are not natural, right? So there's like bright red, and sometimes they're like bright green, bright yellow. We are not used to those kind of brightness, that high chroma in portraits. So this is a difficult part for me because I never work with those kind of high chroma colors, and in still life we need to learn how to work with them. And there are very small changes, such as in the glass you can see there are at least 5 different shades of red, and kind of tuning your eyes to it takes time, and it's really difficult, especially if you're coming from a portrait background. And the second thing is you need to have the shapes exactly the same. Like, you need to have a perfect circle, you need to have a perfect square, and that's kind of challenging because when you study with portraits, it doesn't have to be perfect because the nose is not a line or face is not an exact square, so you have room for error. But here it's not the case most of the time, so you need to be careful about your lines and also your curves. They need to look like a real object. In order to do that, you can always use your ruler, or you can use your compass, your divider, even a jar lid if it's going to help you to draw the perfect circle that you're looking for. And if you're afraid your hands will tremble, then you can always have support from your desk, which I will show you in a second how I did. But when you're getting the support from your desk, make sure that you have this wax paper between your hand and your paper. Otherwise, you're going to smudge all the paint. Other thing that I want to talk about, seeing these minor changes in colors and also seeing different shades of highlights and also shadows. That's also challenging as well. On one single piece of grape, I've seen like maybe 5 and 6 different colors, which was mind-blowing to me, and it took me forever to paint these grapes. And by the way, it had been a while. I hadn't been painting for 2 months, so I had a lazy hand. I'm gonna confess that. But besides that, really, I think with still life, you need to study the object more carefully in order to get those minor changes right. Like portraits, still life needs layers as well, so you can see me working on these grapes with multiple layers. One very important thing about still life is the negative space. What you see here in black is negative space. If you don't have the negative space in still life, then the object will not come forward. It's not going to stand out. You cannot really put it in 3D space. This is why it is super important to add those negative space. You can see me here trying to add this perfect circle, but no, it's not working. So I'm changing the angle of my hand, and that's more helpful. So as I said, you can have the support from your desk. This way, you're gonna have a better chance of having the perfect shape. And don't worry if you're not getting the perfect one. Nobody's perfect. When you're painting the background, you could always correct those imperfect lines or curves. Another thing about still life, like weird shapes, such as what I'm working on right now, there was a reflection of a weird shape. You never know. You don't know what it is, and it doesn't matter. You just draw what you see, even though you don't know what you're actually drawing. Sometimes it takes a while for your eyes to tune and see what's actually going on there. just like what I'm doing on the leaves, you have these kind of shapes that doesn't make sense to your eye, but you have to really copy what you see in the reference photo and go for it. So your brain might play you a trick. It's like, hey, this doesn't make sense, and just don't listen to it and just trust your eye and keep drawing. Another thing that is difficult in still life is the patterns that you see. For example, the pattern here was challenging, so I decided to apply it with my sponge, which kind of created a shape that I was looking for. But also, if you are, let's say, working on a fabric, or you're trying to paint, let's say, a rug or a carpet, then that will need a certain type of fabric, and you need to think about how you're going to get that exactly on your paper. So that's very challenging. And with pastels, if you have a background in black, do it in the last step, because as you can see, it's very dense, and those black dust pieces might ruin your painting because it will kind of make it look dirty. And you can see there's like a white line right on the right side of the glass, and that's because when I was doing my first draft, I think I put a little bit too much pressure on my pencil. You need to be careful about that too, because right afterwards, when you're painting on your first draft, then those lines might not be filled in with the pastel that you're applying. So just keep in mind. I hope you found these tips helpful, guys, about still life and what the difficulties were and how we paint still life with pastels. And if you are interested in learning more, here are the other videos that I have about soft pastels. Hit the subscribe button if you want to learn more. Bye!